Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So today's episode comes to you courtesy of one of my amazing patrons, Carlos, who's been supporting this channel as a Golden Pig tier patron. I truly couldn't do this without the support from amazing patrons like Carlos, so again, Carlos, thank you again so much. And for the personalized deck tech, Carlos chose Ian Malcolm with a focus on forced draws to mill our opponents out. A 2/2 human scientist for 3 mana, and is it? Whenever a player draws their second card during each turn, that player exiles the top card of their library. During each player's turn, that player may cast a spell from among the cards they don't own. Exile with Ian, and mana of any type may be spent to cast it. So essentially, here, there, and everywhere, we're going to be having everyone draw cards. A lot of cards. And when everyone draws 2 cards in a turn, well, they're going to be exiling cards, which gets added to a pool that anyone can use but them in a way. So yes, you can just add to that chaos pool. Everyone can use the cards that are not their own. Lots of crazy chaotic things are going to be happening, and while we're doing that, we're going to be having people dig down through their deck until they run out of cards. So yes, we are going to be doing some pretty crazy chaotic things with this build. Speaking of this build, though, it is $23.67 according to Moxfield. If you are interested in it, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. And of course, as always, let's jump into the tactics right now. And we're going to start things off with a big one with the Golden Pig of this deck, the #1 card over 99, which is Forced Fruition, an enchantment for 6 mana in blue. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player draws 7 cards. So, again, drawing cards is what Commander players want to do, right? And we're just giving our opponents more cards. It's a good thing, right? I mean, too much of a good thing is a bad thing. You can't eat like 5 pounds of ice cream every single day, even though all of us might want to do that. That being said, yeah, drawing 7 cards, you run out of a deck very, very, very quickly. And every single time a player actually casts a spell now, obviously they're basically losing 8, right? Because they have to exile a card too. So it's an absolutely amazing way to, well, overdrive our opponent's decks and finish them off. Definitely, in my opinion, worthy of the title of Golden Pig. Moving on to tactic number 2, wheels up. First up, Magus the Wheel, pay 2, tap, sacrifice it. Everyone wheels, which means discard your hand and draw 7 cards. With that 8th exiled, of course. Runehorn Hellkite, basically a wheel from our graveyard, pay 6 mana, exile of our graveyard. Everyone wheels, draw 7. Then there's Dragon Mage, a repeatable wheel effect, 5/5 flyer. When it hits someone, well, we are going to, everyone, not just ourselves, not just the player we hit, everyone wheels. Everyone's going to have so much fun wheeling again and again and again, right? Next up, tactic number 3, extra. Everyone's got to have an extra great time with Fascination. Choose one, everyone draws X cards, or everyone mills X cards. So late in the game, if players' decks are low, we can say, you know what? We're done with drawing. Everyone just mill. You got no cards, and all of a sudden, your next draw, you lose. Next up, Skyscribing. Everyone draws X cards, or we can actually forecast it to make everyone draw 1. Rune Servitor. When this dies, everyone draws a card. So, sorry. But you're welcome. Thank you. Next up, Vision Sky. It's 2 mana. Everyone draws 2 cards at instant speed. So, yeah, basically, again, this is going to guaranteed hit every single person at 2 cards in a turn. So everyone's going to be exiling a card as well to add to the chaos pool. Words of Wisdom. Everyone draws 1 card. We draw 2 instead. Then there's Noggle Ransacker. Enters the battlefield. Everyone draws 2 cards. Discards a card at random. Hopefully for our opponent's sakes. Well, hopefully for our sake, they discard their best card. Yeah, they very well might. Next up, Soaring Show Off. Enters the battlefield. Each player draws a card. And finally, Tales of the Ancestors. This one can be quite spicy. Each player with fewer cards in hand than the player with the most cards in hand. Draw cards equal the difference. And you can foretell it for just 2 mana. Basically, again, you can build someone up with a lot of cards with some spells we're going to talk about here in a little bit. And once someone's at a crucial threshold of cards, we can force everyone to draw up to that amount. Moving on to tactic number 4, extra, extra. Yeah, we've got some repeat effects that can force draws as well. Humble Defector, tap, draw 2, give it to an opponent. And if they tap it, they get to draw 2 and then give it to another opponent. This can spread around the table quite a bit. Next up, Lore Broker, tap, everyone draws 1 card and discards 1 card as well. Memory Worm, again, we're going to be playing things from exile. When we do, 2 damage to a player, that player has to, well, discard a card, then draw a card, so a rummaging effect. And we get a counter on this as well. Next up, Red Death Shipwrecker. We can goad a creature with this by tapping it. Then that player draws a card and we get an extra red mana. So basically it's a mana dork that also forces goads, which is amazing, and force card draw. Lovely. Then there's Zenith Chronicler. It can force a lot of card draw throughout the game. Player casts their first multicard spell each turn. Each other player draws a card. Then there's Curse of Verbosity. Hey, opponent over there, you want this? No? Okay, too bad. We gotta throw this Aura Curse on a player, and all of a sudden, whenever they are attacked, well, we get to draw a card, and the opponent attacking them gets to do that as well. Fevered Visions. In each player's end step, the player draws a card. So this can force, again, that second card drawn every single player's turn, counting the first one they draw. If the player is your opponent and has 4 more cards in hand, 2 damage to them. So some extra damage there. Why not? Then there's Howling Golem. Whenever it attacks or blocks, everyone draws a card. Jace Beleren, Great Planeswalker for this deck. +2, everyone draws a card. -1, target player draws a card. -10, if we get there. Mill a player 20 card. Next up, Karn the Betrayer, kind of like a Humble Defector, but deadlier. 5/1 attacks or blocks each combat if able, lose control of it, draw 2. If damage would be dealt to it, prevent it, and yeah, give it to an opponent. Lovely. Then there's Otherworld Atlas. My goodness, this can build up. Tap, put a charge counter on it, and you keep building those up, and then all of a sudden, tap it. Every single player draws equal to the number of charge counters on this. This can be an absolutely amazing way to force a ton of draws. Moving on to our next tactic, here comes the boom. First up, Mishra's Command. Choose 2. Choose target player. They may discard up to X cards and draw a card for each card discarded this way. This spell deals X damage target creature, X damage target planeswalker. Target creature gets +X/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. Commander's Insight. Target player draws X+ additional card for each time you've cast a commander for the command zone this game. So yeah, we got a low to ground a commander. We can cast it a couple of times and just put a bunch of mana into this. We got a lot of mana rocks to talk about here in a little bit. Drown in Dreams, another great X spell. Choose 1 if you control your commander's cast spell. You may choose both instead. Target player draws X cards and mills twice X cards. Yeah, this can be a great finisher for 1 or even 2 players. Stroke of Genius, very simple, very effective. Target player draws X cards. Expansion Explosion. Expansion can copy a small intersource spell, which can be quite great. Explosion, X damage any target. Target player draws X cards as well. And finally, Temporal Cascade. We're not going to be choosing that first one. Each player shuffles their graveyard in their hand. No, we're not doing that. We're going to be making each player draw 7 cards. And yeah, we can do some spicy things with that and some things we're going to talk about right now. Because our next tactic is called Seeing Double. And first up, we've got Double Vision, an enchantment that says when you cast your first instant source spell each turn, copy that spell, choose targets for the copy. We've got some really big spells, and copying them up can be absolutely amazing. Yeah, make our opponents just go, well, ham with their deck and just run out of cards quite quickly. Next up, Arcane Bombardment. When you cast your first instant source spell each turn, exile instant source card at random from your graveyard, then copy each card, exile with it. You may cast copies without paying their mana cost. This can get out of control in absolutely no time. Swarm Intelligence, speaking of which, copies every single one of our instant sorcery spells. Yeah, it's a lot of value to be had there. Moving on to tactic number 6, big plays. First up, Jace's Eraser. Whenever you draw a card, you may have someone mill a card, essentially. So this one, essentially, can really double up the impact of our, well, draw spells. Again, we're having everyone draw. Again, let's say 7. Oh, cool. Good for you. Everyone draw 7. All right. You mill another 7. Yay! Speaking of which, Teferi's Tutelage. Enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2 cards. So it's twice as effective at just dishing out that pain of milling. Losing their cards, getting rid of their deck in absolutely no time. Moving on. Speaking of pain, Psychosis Crawler went in a different direction. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. This can draw them in absolutely no time. They can just drain down and have absolutely nothing to work with left. Then there's the 12th Doctor, the first spell you cast from anywhere other than your hand. Each turn has Demonstrate. So yeah, we can just say, you know what? When I cast it, I can copy it. And then you get to copy it. Congratulations on my giant spells that make everyone draw so many cards. And on top of that, whenever you copy a spell, you get a counter on this. That's quite nice. Cut your losses. Really speed things up, though. Casualty 2. Target player mills half their library rounded down. They're not going to have a library left in absolutely no time. Speed of which, the Mindbreaker. When it attacks, defending player mills half their library rounded up. On top of that, you can unearth it as well to swing again. So yeah, that can be very, very deadly. Moving on, though, to our next tactic. Away with you and away with Alchemist Retrieval. We can actually just bounce a non-land permanent back to its owner's hand for 2 mana, or just bounce one of our own things if we need to do so for 1 mana instead. Then there's Filter Out. Return all non-creature, non-land permanents back to owner's hands. This can just bounce a lot of things. Speed of which, Aetherize. Someone swings at us, don't do that. Return all attacking creatures back to their owner's hand. Or if they swing at someone else and they've got a big army, do that too. Consuming Tide. Everyone gets to pick one thing. We're picking Ian most likely. And then everyone else bounces everything, essentially. Everything else gets bounced except for one thing. And we draw a card for each opponent who has more cards in hand than us, which might happen. Then there's Desynchronization, returning each non-land permanent that's not historic back to its owner's hand. So again, that's sagas, legendaries, and artifacts. Then there's Aether Gale, 5 mana, bounce 6 things. What's not to love about that? Aether Spouts, again, that attacking. Don't attack us. For each attacking creature, its owner puts it on top or bottom of their library. Yeah, that can really slow someone down. Devastation Tide, eternal non-land permanents back to their owner's hands, or it's a miracle cost for just 2 mana, which is crazy good. Flood of Tears, bounce every non-land permanent back to its owner's hand. If we bounce 4 or more, put something back into play for free. River's Rebuke. Sorry, player over there. You're kind of threatening, so all your stuff's gone. And again, if we have one of those copy things in play, 2 things are. Finally, though, we've got Ramp It Up. And first up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Pay 2 taps, sacrifice, get a basic land into play, tap. Everflowing Chalice, very flexible mana rock, cost 2 taps for 1, 4 taps for 2, etc., etc. Arcane Signet can tap for either of our colors and just cost 2. Fire Diamond, enters battlefield, tap, taps for a red, cost 2 as well. Is it Signet? Taps for both of our colors essentially. Once we pay 1 into it to filter. Mind Stone, taps for a colorless, pay 1 tap, sacrifice, draw a card. Prismatic Lens can filter our mana or just tap for a colorless. Sky Diamond, exact same thing as fire, but for blue. Then there's the Cancer of Endless Water. No maximum hand size. Lovely. Taps for 1 mana of any color. Next up, there's Midnight Clock. Can actually help us reset our hand, reset our graveyard, reset our library. Can be a quite nice thing. Then there's Warden Power Zone. Enters battlefield, tap, taps for 2. Hedron Archive costs 4, taps for 2. We can pay 2 tap, sacrifice to draw 2 cards. Sunspeaker Crystal, very similar to that one, but instead of drawing 2, we draw 1 and exile any number of graveyards. That can be quite nice. Sage of the Beyond can be a great one as well. Spells we cast from anywhere other than our hand cost 2 less to cast. So yeah, those chaos spells essentially, thanks to our commander, those can cost a lot less for us. Now, as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on this one. If you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.